Tay had read the same paragraph 47 times. His eyes were tired. His back hurt from sitting in the same chair for 6 hours. But he could not stop reading. The words on the screen were simple. Galactic Law 883 stated that no species could colonize a planet that was already occupied by another species. The law was old. It was written 3,000 years ago, after the Great Expansion Wars. Millions had died in those wars. Species had fought over planets, like children fighting over toys. So the Galactic Council made the law to stop the fighting. No colonizing occupied planets. Simple, clear, final. But Tay was not looking at what the law said. He was looking at what the law did not say. He leaned back in his chair and smiled. It was a small smile at first. Then it grew bigger. Then he started laughing. His assistant, a young woman named Bora, looked up from her desk. She had worked with Tay for 2 years. She had never heard him laugh like this. "Sir?" she asked. "Are you okay?" Tay stood up so fast that his chair fell over. He did not pick it up. He grabbed his tablet and ran out of his office. "Sir," Bora called after him. "Where are you going?" "To save humanity," Tay shouted back. Bora sat there for a moment. Then she sighed and picked up his chair. Working for diplomats was never boring. Tay ran through the halls of the United Earth Embassy. People jumped out of his way. Some of them shouted at him. He did not care. He had to find Commander Yuna. Earth was dying. Everyone knew it. The population had grown too large. The resources were running out. Humans needed new worlds. They needed space to grow, to live, to breathe. But every good planet was already taken. The galactic community had been expanding for 10,000 years before humans even learned to make fire. All the best real estate was gone, and Galactic Law 883 made sure humans could not take what others had. Other species looked at humans with pity. Some looked at them with satisfaction. The newcomers would stay small. They would stay weak. They would never be a threat. Tay burst into Commander Yuna's office without knocking. Yuna looked up from her desk. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and cold eyes. She had commanded warships. She had negotiated treaties. She had stared down alien emperors without blinking. Right now, she was staring at Tay like he had lost his mind. "Diplomat Tay," she said slowly. "Do you know what a door is?" "I found it," Tay said. He was breathing hard. "I found the answer." Yuna raised one eyebrow. "The answer to what?" "To everything. To the planet problem. To our future." Tay put his tablet on her desk. "Look at Law 883. Yuna looked at the screen. She read the words. Then she looked back at Tay. "This law is why we cannot expand," she said. "I know this law very well. It has been the wall blocking humanity for 50 years. "Read it again," Tay said. "Read every word carefully." Yuna frowned, but she read it again. Her lips moved slightly as she went through each sentence. Then she stopped. Her eyes went wide. "No colonizing," she whispered. "No colonizing," Tay repeated. "The law forbids colonization. Permanent settlement with intent to claim ownership. But it says nothing about temporary residency," Tay finished. "It says nothing about renting." Yuna sat very still. Tay could see her mind working. She was thinking about all the angles, all the problems, all the possibilities. "This is insane," she finally said. "Yes," Tay agreed. "It will never work. Maybe. The Galactic Council will stop us." "How? We would not be breaking any laws." Yuna stood up. She walked to her window. Outside, she could see the alien city stretching to the horizon. Towers of crystal and metal. Ships flying through purple skies. A world that was not theirs. A world they could only visit. "Explain it to me," she said. "Explain how this would work." Tay took a deep breath. "On Earth, we have something called a lease. A rental agreement. One party owns a property. Another party pays to use it for a set time. The renter does not own anything. They are just borrowing. And you think aliens will agree to this?" Some of them have more planets than they can use. Empty worlds. Barren moons. Places that cost them money to maintain, but give them nothing in return. Tay's voice grew excited. What if we offered to pay them? What if we offered to take care of these places for them? Yuna turned around. We would be tenants. Yes. Not owners. Never owners. Just renters. Temporary residents. Following every law perfectly. Yuna was quiet for a long time. She walked back to her desk. She sat down. She read Law 883 one more time. The Council will be furious, she said. The Council cannot punish us for following their own laws. Other species will complain. Let them complain. Complaining is not illegal either. A small smile appeared on Yuna's face. It was the first smile Tay had ever seen from her. You know what the funny thing is? She said. Humans invented property law thousands of years ago. We invented contracts. We invented lawyers. She laughed softly. And now we are going to use those inventions against a galaxy that never saw them coming. So you approve? Tay asked. Yuna picked up her communicator. Get me the ambassador. And the legal team. And someone who knows about the Valori Empire. The Valori? Tay asked. They have 17 moons they do nothing with. I have been watching them complain about maintenance costs for years. Yuna smiled wider. I think it is time we help them with their problem. Tay felt his heart beating fast. This was really happening. They were really going to try this. One more thing, Yuna said. This idea. It stays between us until we know it works. If word gets out before we are ready, other species might try to change the law. Understood. And Tay? Yuna looked at him with those cold commander's eyes. But there was warmth there now, just a little. Good work. This might be the most important thing any human has ever done. Tay nodded. He turned to leave. Oh, and Tay? He looked back. Next time, knock. Tay smiled and closed the door behind him. Outside, he leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. Humanity was about to change the galaxy, and all it took was reading the fine print. The Valori ship was beautiful in a terrible way. It looked like a giant insect made of black metal and red lights. It hung in space above the meeting station. Blocking out the stars, Yuna watched it through the window of the shuttle. She had seen many alien ships in her career. She had fought some of them. But she had never tried to do business with one. They are not going to understand, said Do-hun. He was the legal advisor Yuna had brought. A small man with glasses and a nervous habit of tapping his fingers. The concept of renting does not exist in their culture. Then we will teach them, Yuna said. Commander, the Valori are warriors. They take what they want. They do not ask. They do not negotiate. They certainly do not rent. Everyone negotiates when there is something they want. The shuttle docked with the station. Yuna led her small team through the airlock. Tay walked beside her. Do-hun followed behind, still tapping his fingers. The meeting room was cold and gray. The Valori did not believe in comfort. They believed in strength. The chairs were hard metal. The table was a solid block of stone. The lights were too bright. 3 Valori waited for them. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their faces had no expressions that humans could read. Their eyes were solid black. The leader stepped forward. His name was Korthax. He was the governor of the Valori Outer Territories. He controlled the 17 moons that Yuna wanted. Humans, Korthax said. His voice was deep and rough. You asked for this meeting. We do not know why. You have nothing we want. Yuna smiled politely. Thank you for seeing us, Governor. I think you will find that we do have something to offer. Speak then. We do not like wasting time. Yuna nodded to Do-hun. The lawyer stepped forward with a tablet in his shaking hands. Governor Korthax, Do-hun began. We understand that you control 17 moons in the outer region of your territory. Yes, they are ours, of course. And we understand that these moons are, how should I say, expensive to maintain. Korthax's black eyes narrowed. The question had hit a sensitive spot. Our internal matters are not your concern, he said. Absolutely not, Yuna agreed. We would never interfere with Valori business. But we could not help noticing that those moons have no population. No resources being extracted. No military bases. They just exist. They are part of our empire. That is enough. Is it? Yuna asked softly. Because, from what we understand, you spend nearly 2 billion credits every year keeping those moons protected. Patrols, sensor stations, defense systems, all for 17 rocks that give you nothing in return. Korthak said nothing, but the other two Valori shifted uncomfortably. What if, Yuna continued, someone else paid for all of that? What if someone else took care of those moons for you? Maintained them? Developed them? Made them worth something? You want our moons, Korthak said. It was not a question. No. We want to borrow them. Silence filled the room. Korthax looked at the other Valori. They looked back at him. None of them understood. Borrow? Korthax repeated the word like it was in a foreign language. Tay stepped forward. Governor, on Earth we have a system called renting. One party owns property. Another party pays to use that property for a set period of time. The owner keeps ownership. The renter just lives there. Why would anyone agree to this? Because the owner gets money without doing any work. And the renter gets a place to live without having to buy anything. Korthax was quiet for a long moment. His forearms crossed over his chest. You want to pay us, he said slowly. To live on our moons. Yes, but the moons would still be ours. Completely. We would sign a contract, a legal document. At the end of the contract period, we would leave. The moons return to your full control. And if you do not leave, Yuna smiled, then you would have legal right to remove us. By force if necessary. The Galactic Council would support you. We would be breaking the contract. Korthax turned to one of the other Valori. They spoke in their own language. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Finally, Korthax turned back. How much? He asked. Dohun nearly dropped his tablet. Excuse me? How much would you pay? For these moons you want to borrow? Yuna felt her heart jump. He was interested. The warrior species that took whatever they wanted was actually interested in making a deal. 3 billion credits per year, she said. For all 17 moons. 20-year contract. That is more than we spend on them now. Yes, you would make a profit, and you would not have to lift a finger. Korthax's black eyes stared at Yuna. She stared back. She did not blink. She had learned long ago that blinking first was losing. What would you do with these moons? Korthax asked. Live on them. Build homes, farms, cities, whatever we need. You would change them. We would improve them. And when the contract ends, all those improvements would belong to you. Another long silence. The Valori spoke among themselves again. 30-year contract. Korthax finally said. 4 billion per year. And we will inspect the moons every 5 years to ensure you are treating our property properly. Yuna pretended to think about it. Inside, she was screaming with joy. Agreed, she said calmly. Korthax extended one of his 4 hands. Yuna took it. His grip was like steel, but she did not flinch. You are strange creatures, Korthax said. You do not fight for territory. You do not steal. You ask permission and pay money. I do not understand your species. That is okay, Yuna said. Most species do not understand us. But they usually learn. The contract was signed that day. Dohun's hands finally stopped shaking when the last signature was complete. On the shuttle ride home, Tay sat beside Yuna. That was easier than I expected, he said. Warriors respect strength, Yuna replied. But they respect a good deal too. They just do not admit it. What happens now? Now we send colonists, builders, farmers, engineers. We make those moons into homes. Yuna looked out the window at the stars. And then we find more species with property they do not need. The council will notice eventually. Let them notice. By the time they figure out what we are doing, it will be too late to stop us. Tay smiled. You really think this will work? Yuna turned to look at him. Humans have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, near extinction. We always find a way. Always. She looked back at the stars. The galaxy thinks we are weak because we are young. They have no idea what we are capable of. Behind them, Dohun was already drafting letters to 6 other species with unused planets. The era of human rentals had begun. 5 years passed faster than anyone expected. Minho sat in his office on Luna Prime, the first of the 17 Valori moons. Outside his window, he could see a city that had not existed 5 years ago. Towers reached toward the sky. Ground vehicles moved through clean streets. People walked and talked and laughed. Children played in parks that used to be empty craters. Minho was a lawyer. He had come to Luna Prime on the first transport ship. Back then, there was nothing here except rocks and dust. Now there was everything. His communicator beeped. Another call. His 50th of the day. This is Minho, he said. Sir, the Threllians are ready to sign. Minho smiled. The Threllians had taken 6 months to convince. They were careful creatures. They checked every word of every contract. They asked questions that no one had ever thought to ask, but in the end, they signed. Everyone signed eventually. Send them the final documents, Minho said. And tell them we appreciate their trust. He ended the call and leaned back in his chair. Through his window, he watched a transport ship land at the spaceport. More humans arriving. More families looking for new homes. When Minho first heard about the rental program, he thought it was a joke. Renting planets from aliens? It sounded like something from a bad movie. But Tay and Commander Yuna had been completely serious. We need lawyers, Yuna had told him. Good ones. Creative ones. Lawyers who can write contracts that are fair, but also protect our interests. Minho had been the best contract lawyer on Earth. He had written agreements for corporations worth trillions. He had handled disputes that would have broken lesser minds, but nothing had prepared him for this. The first contracts were simple. Basic rental agreements adapted for galactic use. Pay this much per year. Use the property for this long. Follow these rules. Easy. But then the questions started coming. What if the planet had natural resources? Could humans extract them? What percentage went to the owner? What if humans discovered something that was not there before? What if they invented something while living on the property? Who owned the invention? Each question needed an answer. Each answer needed to be written into the contract. The documents grew longer and more complex. Minho hired more lawyers. Then more. Then more. His legal team grew from 3 people to 30 to 300. They worked day and night, writing contracts for different species, different cultures, different ways of thinking. The Valori liked short contracts with strong penalties. The Threllians wanted everything explained in detail. The Mokari preferred verbal agreements but accepted written ones if they included specific phrases in their language. Every species was different. Every contract was unique, but they all had one thing in common. They all benefited both sides. The aliens got money. They got someone else to take care of their unused property. They got improvements and development without spending a single credit. The humans got space, room to grow, places to build lives. It was the perfect deal. And word was spreading. Minho's communicator beeped again. Sir, there is a representative from the Nexol Collective on line 3. They heard about our program. They want to know if we would be interested in leasing 8 planets in their outer systems. 8 planets. Not moons, planets. Minho felt dizzy. When this started, they were begging species to let them rent a few rocks. Now species were coming to them. Schedule a meeting, he said. And get me the files on the Nexol Collective. I want to know everything about them before we talk. He ended the call and stood up. He walked to his window and looked out at the city below. 5 years ago, there were 12 humans on this moon. Now, there were 2 million. They had built homes, schools, hospitals, factories. They had turned a dead world into a living one. And this was just one of the 17 Valori moons. On the other 16, similar cities were rising. Humans were spreading out, building, growing. They were not colonizers. They were tenants. But the difference was only legal. In reality, they were making these places their own. His assistant, a young woman named Gina, entered the office. "Sir, the monthly reports are ready." Summary: we now have active rental agreements with 43 different species. We are leasing 112 planets and moons. Total human population outside Earth is now 50 million. 50 million, Minho repeated. He remembered when that number was 0. "And sir, the Galactic Council has requested information about our activities." Minho nodded slowly. They all knew this day would come. What kind of information? They want copies of all our contracts. They want to review them for legal compliance. Then send them copies. We have nothing to hide. Gina hesitated. Some of the team are worried. They think the council might try to stop us. Minho smiled. It was the smile of a lawyer who had already won. "The council wrote the laws," he said. "We are following them perfectly. Every contract is legal. Every agreement is proper. Every payment is documented." He turned to face Gina. "Let them review. Let them study. Let them spend months reading through our paperwork. They will not find a single violation. And if they try to change the laws, then the contracts we have already signed remain valid. You cannot change a law and apply it to the past. That is basic legal principle. It exists in every system of justice in the galaxy." Gina nodded, but she still looked worried. "Go home," Minho told her. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we start negotiations with the Nexal Collective. 8 planets. Billions of humans could live there." After she left, Minho stood alone in his office. The sun was setting outside. The city lights were coming on. 2 million people going about their lives, safe and secure on a world they did not own but called home. His communicator beeped one more time. "Minho, it is Tay. How are things?" "Busy. The Nexal Collective wants to talk, and the council is asking questions. I heard. Yuna is preparing our response, but she wants your legal opinion." "My opinion is simple. We have done nothing wrong. We followed the rules. We just followed them better than anyone expected." Tay laughed. "That should be our motto. Humans. Following the rules better than expected. Not as catchy as humanity first, but more accurate." They talked for a few more minutes about details and plans. When the call ended, Minho turned off the lights in his office. On his desk sat a small frame. Inside was a copy of the first rental contract ever signed between humans and the Valori. The document that started everything. Minho picked it up and looked at it. Such a simple piece of paper. Such simple words. But it had changed the course of human history. He placed it back on his desk and walked out into the night. Above him, the stars waited. More planets, more moons, more places for humanity to rent. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room Hana had ever seen. It could hold 10,000 beings at once. Today, it held representatives from every major species in known space, and every single one of them was staring at her. Hana was Earth's new representative to the Council. She had taken the position 3 months ago, knowing that this day would come. The Council had finished their review of human activities. Now they wanted answers. She stood alone in the center of the chamber. Above her, arranged in circles that rose toward the distant ceiling, sat the delegates. Some had 2 eyes. Some had many. Some had none at all, but all of them were watching. The head counselor, a massive being called Vorath, spoke first. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Representative Hana, you have been called before this council to explain the actions of your species. Do you understand the seriousness of this meeting?" "I do, Counselor." "Good. Then let us begin." Vorath pressed a button on his desk. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing a map of the galaxy. Hundreds of points glowed blue. These are the locations currently occupied by humans under what you call rental agreements. 237 planets and moons. 300 million humans now live outside your home world. A murmur went through the crowd. 300 million. The number shocked even Hana. It had grown so fast. You have spread across our galaxy in just 10 years, Vorath continued. You claim this is legal. You claim you have broken no laws. But many here believe you have violated the spirit of law. 883. Hana nodded calmly. She had prepared for this. May I respond, counselor? You may. Hana took a deep breath. This was the moment everything depended on. Honorable counselor. Distinguished delegates. I understand your concern. When humans first proposed the rental program, many thought it was a trick. A way to steal planets, without fighting for them. She paused. The chamber was completely silent. But let me ask you something. Have we harmed anyone? Have we forced any species to sign a contract? Have we threatened, or deceived, or cheated? No one answered. Because the answer was no. Every agreement we have made was voluntary. We approached species with unused property. We offered them money, maintenance, and improvement. They were free to say no. Many did. We accepted their decision and moved on. A delegate from the Threlian Alliance spoke up. But you knew we would say yes. You knew we could not resist such offers. Did we force you to accept? Hana asked. Did we trick you? Or did we simply offer you a deal that made sense for both of us? The Threlian had no answer. Hana turned to address the full chamber. The truth is, many species have more territory than they need. Empty worlds that cost money to maintain and provide nothing in return. We offered to take that burden away. We offered to pay for the privilege. And now you control those worlds, Vorath said. We live on those worlds. We work on them. We build on them. But we do not own them. Hana pulled out a tablet. I have here copies of every rental agreement humanity has ever signed. Every single one includes clear statements of ownership. The property belongs to the original owner. We are tenants, nothing more. But you have changed those worlds, another delegate said. You have built cities, infrastructure, economies. Yes, we have improved the property. As any good tenant should. Hana smiled slightly. When your lease ends, all those improvements become yours. Free of charge. We have increased the value of your territory 100-fold. Silence again. This was the argument that no one could counter. Humans had not taken anything. They had added value. They had made worthless rocks into valuable worlds. Vorath leaned forward. What happens when these leases end? Will you leave? If the owners want us to leave, yes. That is what the contract says. And if you refuse, then you would have legal right to remove us. By force. The contracts are clear on this point. O.B. A delegate from the Kasari Empire stood up. He was a small being with bright green skin and a voice like breaking glass. This is ridiculous. We all know what humans are doing. They are colonizing the galaxy through paperwork. They are conquering without firing a shot. And we are helping them do it. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Hana raised her hand. May I respond to the delegate? You may, Vorath said. The delegate accuses us of conquering. But what is conquest? Taking something by force against the owner's will. Hana gestured at the glowing map. Show me one place we have taken by force. Show me one owner who was forced to sign. Show me one contract that was made under threat. The Kasari delegate opened his mouth, then closed it. You cannot, Hana continued. Because everything we have done was legal. Everything was voluntary. Everything was properly documented and approved. She turned in a slow circle, making eye contact with as many delegates as she could. I know what you are afraid of. You are afraid that humans are growing too fast. Too powerful. You are afraid of what we might become. Dead silence. But here is the truth. We are not your enemy. We are your tenants, your business partners, your allies in making empty space into something valuable. Hana straightened her shoulders. If you want to stop us, change the law, make renting illegal, void all contracts. She paused. But if you do that, you void your own property rights. Every agreement you have ever made with each other becomes questionable. Every contract, every treaty, every deal. Is that really what you want? Vorath stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the other counselors. We will take a recess to discuss. The delegates rose and began talking among themselves. Some looked angry. Some looked thoughtful. Some looked at Hana with something that might have been respect. A young human aide rushed to Hana's side. That was amazing, he whispered. You shut them down completely. Not yet, Hana said quietly. They are going to debate. They are going to look for loopholes. They are going to try to find a way to stop us without destroying their own legal system. Will they find one? Hana watched the delegates argue among themselves. The Valori were defending humans, which surprised no one. They had made billions from the rental program. The Threllians were taking notes and asking questions. The Kesari were shouting at anyone who would listen. No, she finally said. They will not find one, because there is nothing to find. We followed their rules. Their own rules. She smiled, and now they have to live with the consequences. 3 hours later, the council reconvened. Vorath looked tired. The other counselors looked defeated. The council has reached a decision, Vorath announced. After careful review, we find that humanity has violated no laws. The rental agreements will be allowed to continue. Hana felt relief wash over her, but she kept her face calm. However, Vorath continued, the council will be forming a committee to study possible reforms to galactic property law to prevent similar situations in the future. We welcome the committee's work, Hana said smoothly. Humanity has always supported fair and transparent legal processes. As she left the chamber, she allowed herself a small smile. They had won, not through war, not through conquest. Through contracts and lawyers and careful reading, humanity had just secured its place in the galaxy, and this was only the beginning. 50 years had passed since Tay first read Galactic Law 883. 50 years since a simple idea changed everything. Tay was old now. His hair was white. His hands shook when he held things. But his mind was still sharp. Sharp enough to understand what humanity had become. He sat in a garden on New Sol, one of the first planets humans had rented. The garden was beautiful. Flowers from Earth mixed with alien plants. Birds sang in trees that had been brought from 3 different worlds. A young woman sat across from him. Her name was Soman. She was a journalist, writing a story about the anniversary of the rental program. 50 years, she said. Can you believe it has been that long? Tay smiled. Some days it feels like yesterday. Other days it feels like 1,000 years. Tell me about the beginning. What was it like? Tay closed his eyes and remembered. The small office, the tired eyes, the moment when everything clicked into place. We were desperate, he said. Earth was dying. We needed space. But every planet was owned. Every moon was claimed. We had nowhere to go. And then you found the loophole. I found a possibility. Commander Yuna made it real. She was the one who believed it could work when everyone else thought it was crazy. Commander Yuna passed away 10 years ago, Soman said softly. Did you attend the funeral? I gave the speech. She was the best commander I ever served under. The best leader humanity ever had. Tay opened his eyes. She would have loved to see this day. What do you think she would say? Tay laughed. She would say we talked too much and did too little. She always wanted us working, not celebrating. Soman smiled and looked at her notes. The numbers today are incredible. Humanity now leases over 2,000 worlds. 5 billion humans live outside Earth. We have more territory than any species in the galaxy. Territory we do not own. Tay reminded her. Does that matter anymore? It was a good question. Tay thought about it carefully. Yes and no, he finally said. Legally, we own nothing. Every planet, every moon, every station belongs to someone else. We are still tenants. But 50 years is a long time. Generations have been born on these worlds. They have never seen Earth. These places are their home. Tay gestured at the garden around them. My grandchildren were born on this planet. They speak a language that did not exist when I was young. They eat food grown in soil we brought from across the galaxy. Are they tenants? Or are they something more? Salmon nodded slowly. Some species have started to question the arrangement. They want their planets back. Some have. The Valori asked for their moons last year. What happened? Tay's smile became something else, something harder. We offered to leave, as the contracts required. We would pack up our cities, our farms, our factories. We would take everything we built and go. And they realized what that meant. The moons would return to them empty. The cities would be gone. The infrastructure would be dismantled. They would have their property back, but it would be worthless. Salmon's eyes widened. They did not want that. No, they did not. So they offered us a new lease. 100 years this time. Lower rent because they knew we would keep improving their property. We made them dependent on us. Tay was quiet for a moment. We made them partners. There is a difference. Is there? The question hung in the air between them. When the Valori first agreed to rent us their moons, Tay said, they thought they were making a clever deal, getting paid for rocks they did not need. But they did not understand what humans do. We build. We grow. We connect. We turn nothing into something. And now they cannot live without us. Now they do not want to live without us. Their economy is tied to ours. Their children learn our languages. Their scientists work with our scientists. Tay spread his hands. We did not conquer them. We became necessary to them. Salmon wrote something in her notebook. The Galactic Council is still trying to find ways to stop this. They have been trying for 50 years. They will try for 50 more. Tay shrugged. But every year, more species sign leases with us. Every year, our network grows. Every year, the galaxy becomes more connected to humanity. Some call it peaceful conquest. Some call it progress. It depends on your point of view. A chime sounded from Salmon's communicator. She checked it and stood up. I have to go. The anniversary ceremony is starting soon. She hesitated. Will you be there? Will you be there? Tay shook his head. I have seen enough ceremonies. I prefer my garden. Salmon bowed respectfully. Thank you for your time, sir. And thank you for what you did. For all of us. After she left, Tay sat alone in the garden. The sun was setting. The sky turned colors that only existed on this world. Red and gold and deep purple. He thought about the young man he used to be. The one who read the same paragraph 47 times. The one who ran through hallways shouting about saving humanity. That man had no idea what he was starting. His communicator buzzed. A message from his grandson. Grandfather, are you watching the ceremony? Tay typed back slowly. His fingers were not as fast as they used to be. No. Tell me about it later. Grandmother Yuna's statue was unveiled today. It looks just like her. Tay smiled. They had built a statue of Yuna in the capital city. She would have hated it. She always said that statues were for people who had stopped working. But she deserved it, more than anyone. Send me a picture, he typed. A moment later, the image appeared on his screen. Yuna stood tall in bronze, her hand outstretched toward the stars. The plaque at her feet read, She showed us the way. Tay looked at the image for a long time. They had done it. Against all odds, against all expectations, they had done it. Humanity had gone from a dying world to a galactic power in 50 years. Not through war. Not through conquest. Through patience and contracts and the simple idea that you do not have to own something to make it yours. The galaxy had thought humans were weak because they were young. They had thought humans were harmless because they did not fight. They had been wrong. Humans did not need to conquer. They did not need to colonize. They just needed a signature, a handshake, and time. Tay looked up at the sky. The first stars were appearing. Somewhere out there, on thousands of worlds, humans were building, growing, living. They owned nothing. They controlled everything, and the universe would never be the same. He closed his eyes and smiled. Mission accomplished.